Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think sales always comes down to storytelling. When you're selling services, it's the story of what you're going to be able to achieve through using your service, using your people, your talent to fulfill whatever it is you're trying to fulfill.
Welcome to the BizDev Podcast, a podcast about developing your business. I'm David Baxter, your host, joined today, per usual, by Gary Voigt. Today, I'm in the tundra. How are you, Mr. Gary, down in Florida?
It's crazy. You guys went through a snowstorm this weekend and we had 86-degree weather, but now we're getting
the heat we had and gave it to you.
Pretty much, but now I'm getting a little bit of your cold because it's dropping from 77 this morning down to 74.
I went to Florida a week ago to visit a client, and it was 30 degrees, and I was very mad at you because that is not supposed to happen. I was not dressed for 30-degree weather in Florida.
Yeah. That was the second cold front we've had so far this year. We're entering our third crazy. And probably last.
This is one of those times where it's like, no matter where you are, if you're anywhere in the half right side of the country, you're under ice right now. That is just very strange. That was a big storm. We hardly got anything. But more importantly than the weather, we're going to talk to Oz Merchant. Hello, sir. How are you? You are the CEO and founder of Future Proof. I see you all over the place. I don't think I've had the pleasure to talk to you very much. So I'm very excited about this. How are you?
Good. Good meeting you, David. Thanks, Gary.
So did you get stuck under the ice shelf? Or are you nice and warm and cozy?
No, it wasn't. They built it all up. Then throughout the week, it just progressively it's going to be like 11 inches and 5 inches. And I think we got maybe an inch or two of ice. That's enough to get some sledding in. So my daughter was happy.
Nice.
Oh, man, I miss sledding.
We didn't leave the house about once. I have not left the house in days. It's very sad. Someone help me. Anyway. So we got a few questions we'd like to start with that are just easy questions to get to know you a little bit better. These are not, Oz has never seen these. That's my favorite part. You have no idea what's coming. All right. Start off with softball. Favorite dessert?
I think my go-to is probably a cheesecake.
Nice. Nice. Do you have a specific kind of cheesecake? Are you a Cheesecake Factory guy? Store-bought? Where are you at?
New York cheesecake, plain, maybe some, what is it? Strawberry, raspberry stuff on it.
Okay. Nice.
What about the chocolate? You like the chocolate cheesecake or no?
In mild,
that's cheating.
Yeah, it's too much sometimes. Like a nice key lime pie is also good. It just cleans the palate.
That is good stuff. My wife hates key lime pie, but I love it. It's good stuff. All right. Best book you have read or listened to in today's world in the last 12 months?
Ooh, last 12 months. Ooh.
Not a huge reader, just the last one. Or one that's been memorable recently.
Read a lot. Probably one that I think that stands out most recently is, what's his name? The AppSumo guy?
Okay, yeah. I know AppSumo at least.
Yeah, is that who wrote it? I'm trying to think. I'm trying to look at my bookshelves like I know. Millionaire Weekend.
Yeah, Millionaire Weekend? $1 million?
$1 million Weekend.
Okay. All right.
Just from a very tactical, actionable, go do something.
Yeah. Okay. Choose your superpower.
Choose my superpower. If I wasn't afraid of heights, I think that's because I just watched a Skyscraper last night.
I watched that, the live Skyscraper, dude.
I have not seen it because I have developed a slight fear of heights in my older age. And
man, you should see my wife watching that. The whole time, because I can't watch this. Oh, that was crazy. Yeah, we accidentally just happened to, we were watching another movie, watched The Rip, which is a Netflix movie. It was fine. But it ended right when that thing was about to start. So my kids were like, what is this? And we sat and watched. Like, I left it on the whole time. I would come and go because it got repetitive. But dude, that was nuts. When he would just let his legs fly free and he's 1,000 feet off the ground. Anyway, yes, that's crazy.
And I think you guys are to Adam Lockwood.
No, that's not his name.
No, Alex
something.
Alex Hudson.
Yeah, something. Yeah, that sounds right. It was an age.
Yeah. Yeah. So flying's always nice if you can be okay.
That would be hard if you're scared of heights, though. Exactly. You're like hovering. That you would prefer hover a foot off the ground. That's nice.
I went skydiving many years back, and it was like you get to a certain point where it just becomes a bit surreal. So if you're afraid of heights, it's only because you can see the distance, and when it becomes just like a giant postcard looking down, it's less scary.
I've heard that. Yeah, I have friends that regularly skydive, and they're like, the hardest part is just the jumping out, and then you're fine.
I haven't done that. I don't know. I weigh it. I don't know. I don't know if I can do it. All right, last one. What do you do as a hobby?
Soccer.
Besides skydiving.
Soccer.
Probably.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very
Indoor,
active.
outdoor.
Very good.
Now,
All
on
right.
that note, Ted Lasso fan?
Oh, damn it.
After since we're here, this is what I got for
He's
Christmas.
got an I Believe poster.
Yes.
What would Ted Lasso do? Nice.
Oh, I love that. I have a shirt my kids gave me that has a bunch of his stuff. Be curious, be a goldfish.
I got one of
Be
those.
curious. Like it's a bunch of his quotes. Dude, best show I've seen in a decade.
Easy.
I have a picture. I have one of the shirt. It's just the outline of Roy Kent's face. I forget, that's something. I can't remember what it says, but it's
Have you ever seen Roy Kent, the human, not the character, talk
Brett
normally?
Goldstein?
Yeah, he is just,
his stand-ups on Netflix.
he couldn't be more different. He could not be more
He's
different.
calm. He's
Yeah.
soft-spoken and
soft-spoken.
nice. Yeah.
Could not be more different. Okay. So tell me about Future Proof. Tell me, you are involved in a lot of things, but let's start there. Tell me about Future.
Yeah, Future Proof. So essentially, it's startup number 7, and it came about because of working with a lot of different founders. So I run an accelerator program through Founder Institute for North Carolina. I'm mentoring a lot of other accelerator programs as well. So I've been working with a lot of mentors over the last few years. And it came about from just going through this exercise of helping somebody figure out their pro forma 3-year projections and just, wow, okay, why are we still doing this in spreadsheets? Why is there not an easier way? At the same time, I think I was doing a podcast for e-commerce, and one of the questions the interviewer had asked me is like, hey, how do you grow from 7 figures to 8 figures? And it's like, at some point you need that CFO type lens, somebody that's looking far enough ahead, especially from e-commerce, because there's lead times, it's capital intensive business. You really need somebody that's monitoring all of that, because that's what's going to take to scale and grow. So that weekend, I think just that amalgam of working with this founder, helping them do the projections, and having that conversation on that previous podcast just spawned the idea of, okay, what if we built some sort of AI CFO to help SaaS and e-commerce founders specifically? That was the birth.
So you guys have been around about 9 months. Where are you in terms of, are you launched? Are you out the door? Do you have revenue? Are you on a runway? Where are you at?
Just starting to go out the door, just get initial revenue going. So all happening now pretty much.
Very cool. That's about where you're a few steps ahead of where we are with Tila. And except for you have a massive advantage in the fact that you know what you're doing and we're just flying blind. So I totally am jealous.
We're being run by David here. So
is a very nice word, more like stumble, but it's really interesting because I'm a builder. I can build, I can design well enough, and I can do the software piece. Like I got that. Once it's gone, and I've mentored hundreds of startups. I don't know, hundreds, at least 100 startups over the years, and I'm good at that. But I have never sat on this side of the table. I've said this on our podcast before, and so this is all new to me.
We're using AI tons, constantly, from FAQs to knowledge-based stuff, and you have to reread it. I remember we applied for NCID last cohort, and we made it down to the final 20. And I remember seeing some of the stuff they sent out was like the amount of AI used in the application submission. They were tracking and seeing it was almost creeping up to 100%.
They said that half of them now just get kicked out because we're trying for the micro grant, the tiny one, because I really want the content. I don't care about the $10,000. I want that 6 weeks of content. But they were saying half of them, because the numbers of who's applying has gone up considerably. They're almost up to 300. But they said half of them go away almost immediately. Like they're half done, they're pure AI, they're not thought through. You could tell someone just shoved it out the door. And then about 150 are still legit. It's still very competitive, but the numbers have gone up because it just seems like, I can just push a button.
Yeah, with AI, it's kind of garbage in, garbage out. So if you're not prompting is a key factor. In fact, talking to a lot of different founders and engineers and developers, especially that are doing a lot of outsourcing, I heard one of the big challenges has been people overseas. They really struggle with AI. They're basically, they've spent whatever the last 5 years developing, and they're being told, okay, well, now use AI stuff, and they'll try it. They'll get the wrong kind of output, and they'll default back to, let me just go code this because I know how to do it. Because part of the challenge is because of the language barriers and stuff, if you don't know how to prompt right, you're not going to get the right output. So they default back to, I'm not going to sit there and try to figure out how to do the prompting. Let me just go back to doing coding because I'll get my output.
In our development world, especially when we've used contractors in the last year, Big Pixel is heavily into AI in terms of development. We're pushing ourselves to be good at it. And then we bring in a contractor and it's like, we've just gone to the dark ages. They won't touch it. And I realized when you are an hourly worker, AI is not your friend. You do not want something to double your speed. That is the worst thing you can do because you can't triple your rate. I'm now $400 an hour. That's not going to work. And so we realize our contractors just are the slowest to adopt anything AI. And I get that. But at the same time, I'm like, if you want to be with us, you have to use these tools or we're not going to work with you anymore. And we cut back almost all of our contractors because of that. But it is interesting. And also ours are US based contractors. So I can't even imagine for it, right? Like, and even internally, we have that same tension where it's like our devs, when they started, they're much better now. But they were like, I can do this faster initially because they couldn't get the prompt. I'm like, just stick with it, dude. I was like in the canary in the coal mine. I'm way out in front. Just keep at it and your speed will dramatically go up. And that was true. But it is rough that first little bit.
Yeah. And of course, the technology, even if you're doing this 5-6 months ago versus now, it's changing. If you follow like Boris from Anthropic, he mentioned almost the month of December, he went 30 days without, and he's the one that created Claude Code. He used Claude Code to basically do all the Claude Code development for 30 days without a human touching it.
Yeah, it's remarkable. But it is the next skill. To me, it's like if you go 15 years ago, there was this term of Google foo, right? And when that was, how do you search with Google? And some people were really good at it and some people weren't. And that was a very early stage prompting. And that was a real skill set. Now, Google got smarter and you didn't need it as much. And that will happen again with AI. But that was a skill for a few years. You could separate yourself. And I think right now that's where we're at.
And there's still probably 97% of people that don't realize there's the whole advanced tools thing inside, advanced search inside of Google that you can really refine and say, show me only PDFs or show me only image. You can really get specific, but they don't even see that button or have ever clicked it.
Yeah.
So I had to become quickly acquainted with that as a graphic designer looking for imagery and PDFs online. Like the only way to avoid all the ads and nonsense was to really fine tune that advanced search button. All the filters. Yeah.
So you mentioned that Future Proof was your 7th startup.
I think it's
help and build. Yeah. 7th. Yeah.
Oh, 7th. Oh, okay.
So with 6 under your belt on your 7th, how has startup, the easy answer is AI. And I want to put that to the side a second. How has startup changed over those 6 startups that you have done?
Every time it's been different. It's been over 20 years helping different companies over those years. It's like you can't take, especially now, it's like none of the old playbooks really apply anymore. So it's okay. What worked then, and I think that's part of the biggest challenge, is to question the assumptions, question any success you've had to say, is this still hold true? Because if you go in with the lens, okay, that worked for us in the past, it may not hold true at all where we're going in the future. Just from go-to-market, from marketing channels, outbound, all these things have gotten so saturated. I was talking to a founder the other day who's just telling me, man, I really hate Clay just because it's given access to so many people to just bombard me with inbound. Yeah. And it's just so much noise now that it's like, how do you stand out? And that's become probably the key challenge for most companies, is because with all this AI adoption, there's so many builders and nobody really knows how to cut through all that noise to find something that's really meaningful for them at that point in time.
What strikes me as interesting, and the reason I thought of the question, was 20 years, but ultimately the goal of starting up in entrepreneurship and all that hasn't changed. It's to go from 0 to 1, no company to company. And all in that process of create the company, build it, whatever that means, whether you're doing soap or software, right? You've got to build it. You've got to market it. You've got to find your first customers. All of those things are still true. Those 5-8 steps are still 100% the same as they were 20 years ago. How you do it has completely changed.
Yeah.
But it's
Correct.
interesting. This is one of those things that it's the same process. If you started a company 20 years ago, finding that first customer was still painful. Completely different reason why it was painful. But it's really interesting. It doesn't matter the time. Those startup guys were talking about the noise back 20 years ago because it was different.
It's just different
right?
noise.
Different noise.
And-
But everybody, man, I can't get my guy anymore because I knock on the door and he's not answering. Right. Or I call him and he's not, whatever the problem was 20 years ago. We always have those same problems, but they're different. If you could have taken mass marketing and sophisticated as it was 10 years ago, you would have murdered. You would have just murdered because no one was ready for it. You would just mop up the floor. And now everybody's sophisticated. And I
15,
think
20 years ago, Google ads, you could get a lead for 10 cents. It was just crazy. But that's one of the reasons accelerator programs have become so timeless, because most of them, at least the ones I'm involved in stuff, they're all fundamentals. So if you've never done business, this is your crash course in understanding the fundamentals of business, how to do customer discovery, how to think about product, legal structures, go-to-market, any of those kind of key fundamentals of business, they hold true. To your point, it's like that hasn't changed. The how keeps evolving, but the functions that need to be done still stay the same.
What I have been struck by with Tila, because I built Big Pixel from nothing. I've been very blessed with that. There's 12 of us now. We're not huge, but we've been around now 13 years. And building that, people are like, oh, this is your second company. Yeah, they couldn't be more different. Like everything I learned building Big Pixel has nothing to do with building Tila, because service versus product, massive difference. And that's always been different. And I've said that 1,000 times in various scenarios. I can learn the widget and sell this. And I've always said selling services is harder. What I'm intrigued to see if I'm going to eat crow by the end of this, because now I am selling a product. I have a widget, right? It's a software program. I can find a salesperson who's going to learn my software, as opposed to learning the service is very hard. But I imagine at the end of the day, I'm going to eat crow because it's probably just as hard, just completely different. And that's what I'm not sure. I haven't done that yet. I don't have my first sale. We're all in pilot mode and beta.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think sales always comes down to storytelling. When you're selling services, it's the story of what you're going to be able to achieve through using your service, using your people, your talent to fulfill whatever it is you're trying to fulfill. So that storytelling, I think, stays the same, that you're using that product. Why am I getting an iPhone instead of a flip phone? There's a story behind that, what you're trying to achieve. And from your utility to status to whatever it is that it's fulfilling for you, there is a narrative to go with that. So I think that stays the same. It's just a matter of what you're plugging in out. Is it a service? Is it a product?
Let me poke on that a little bit, because storytelling, I understand. And I also understand if I'm selling a Big Pixel project, I'm sitting down with you, you're interested in some software. My whole song and dance is my storytelling. Me and you, I'm going to tell you the story of why Big Pixel. And I have this large surface area in which to tell you my story, right? It's either one-on-one or whatever. We're zooming it, whatever. But me and you, I get to tell my story for a very long time. It's very personal. That's services. How does storytelling work in a product environment where I never get to meet you, right? Is it just my website that's telling the story? Is that the equivalent?
Over time, though, you've built the Big Pixel brand. So that brand is telling that story. You're just getting to be that spokesperson at some point when somebody sits down with you. So that brand is still out there telling that story for whatever it is that it's delivering. So you've got testimonials, other people talking about if you wanting to use that service, go talk to these guys at Big Pixel. They know what they're doing. They can deliver this on time, on budget. So that whole narrative is floating around that brand. Same thing with product. Whether you're selling barbecue sauce or you're selling a SaaS product, there is a whole story around that brand that you're going to market with. So it takes time to build that brand and to get that story to start being told by itself or through other kind of channels. So you're not the only person telling that story. But initially, you're always the first person to start telling that story. It starts with you, and then it spreads and becomes contagious, hopefully, and then others start telling your story.
So this is when I'm going to use my podcast as free consulting. How do you go 0 to 1? You've done it several times, and that's the hard. You're talking about 7 digits to 8 digits, right? That's a different problem. But I've always been told that those first few users are the absolute hardest because you don't have that story. I have no brand. I've got nothing. You got founder-led sales. I get that, which is probably very similar to my service sales. But how do you go get those first? You've done this several times. How do you get those? Is it just a matter of tapping your network? Is it making the most magical ad ever? Like, where do you find success for that 0 to 1?
I think I'm trying to think back a bit. Now it gets easier because you have a network. I have a network. We've been in business long enough or in the ecosystem where you can tap into those. But I think it's somebody that if you're totally starting up, because that's what some of the challenges I hear from founders. Okay, I don't have a network.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Same thing when you hear about people that are trying to do angel fundraising. I don't know a bunch of rich people. I don't know how to go raise that. So it's like you have to have a network to start that. And honestly, I think there are vehicles like, if I was like a SaaS person, if I didn't have a network, the first place I'd go is go join a co-working space. So you start building your network. You can talk to other founders, get some use case conversations going, understand some problems, depending what it is. If you're saying I'm going to go start something and I'm going to go after the enterprise market, really should be thinking twice, because a lot of times that's going to be much harder to do if you don't have a network, you don't have a background to achieve that. So if you're like, okay, I just saw somebody has they're building just like a one-page site, and you're basically selling that as a product. That go to sign up for stuff, and you just get a one-page site for landing page site type thing.
Yeah,
great. Go join a co-working space. Go talk to a bunch of different founders, service providers, whoever needs a landing page, and understand kind of what their use cases or problems are. Get them to test it out, because you're already tapping into a space where that mindset is like, yeah, they're collaborative, want to help people. Co-working is a good space for that. I'm sure there's other pockets of places you can go to where there's different meetups and stuff that those pockets exist. Raleigh Durham Startup Week could be another place to meet a lot of folks. That's here. But now there's startup weeks all around the country. There's new year starting up. There's a bunch of these that are going to be kicking off. Go meet a lot of people. It's easier to meet people now that are similar. It's just trying to finding the tribe. There's a lot more people assembling to be, that tribe is coming together. Just tap into those tribes and you can find those people. Like when we're doing like the last startup, the e-commerce focus, we found out there's 50 different meetups around the country for e-commerce. So we just started attending those and making it to meet those folks and understanding the ecosystem, the players, and who's having what kind of problems. So I think it's easier than it's ever been before. 20 years ago, there's a lot less social media. There's a lot less of any of this to try to find the people. Finding is a lot easier now. Just getting at doing. One of the challenges I think most people have, builders like to build. And part of it is distribution, getting it out there, talking to people, rather than just being behind the computer building.
Big Pixel builds world-class custom software and amazing apps. Our team of pros puts passion into every one of our projects. Our design-infused development leans heavily on delivering a great experience for our clients and their clients. From startups to enterprises, we can help craft your ideas into real-world products that help your business do better business.
So one of the things that happens a lot of times, and I find myself doing this a lot with Tila, is you'll find, not a bug, but you'll find something, a little rat's nest hiding somewhere, and you're like, I'll clean that up later. When does that become dangerous?
There's cleaning up later from a code standpoint.
Sure.
And you're developing technical debt. There's another from a financial standpoint, which I see a lot of people like. It's amazing how often people think they don't have a real business until they have revenue. So they just say, I'll deal with this later because I don't have revenue yet. But if you incorporate it, you got an EIN, it is a separate entity. It actually has its own tax liabilities. Everybody wants their ounce of flesh. You got to do your franchise taxes or your other taxes. You got to do your tax returns. All that still applies because you've incorporated. So the moment you did that, all that still holds true. And most people don't think that way. They're just like, I just incorporated because I can get an LLC going for $100 or something. But it comes with its own set of kind of consequences and ramifications. And they won't think of, I don't have a real business because I don't have any revenue yet. And if they incorporated last year, they still have tax liabilities Q1 basically right now. And they're not thinking about that. So cleaning up later just is a compounding effect. Just like with technical debt. If you're not, remember, talking to somebody about PHP. They're saying that, okay, they need to get to PHP, whatever, 8.4, 8.5. It's like they could only get to 7.2, then 7.4. And it's like they're working on it for 12 months to get there without just breaking everything. Because they didn't do that. They were like sitting at 5.2. So it was like they waited so many years and it's compounded now. So there's a price to pay for that.
A horror story related to that. So we took over a client. This isn't a startup story, but we took over a client years ago and it was built by someone else. We were inheriting code and we learned the hard way, unfortunately. We learned that the way the guy built it, he was old ancient PHP. I think he was like 5 something and the latest at that point was like 7. And the way they had written it was that if you rebooted the server, this is 100% true. If you rebooted the server, it would crash the system because everything was done in these variables that would be flushed when you rebooted. Like it was just so bad. And because of that, like the guy knew it. He knew what he had done. And so we can never upgrade the server. Like this is not maintainable, dude. Never reboot. Like that was, and there was a time when we were just taking that over and we were like, because we didn't know the first time we did it on product, it was time. Something bad had happened. We had to reboot. We didn't think about it. And then everything fell apart. We're like, it was like the longest weekend ever because we had to go put this thing back together because it was duct tape and baling wire. And he was like, yeah, we're going to stick on 5.4 or whatever it was forever. I'm like, this is software, dude. Anyway, so that's good advice. You are super involved in accelerators. And I want to pick your brain a little bit about that. In today's world, are they more important or less important?
I'd say they're more important just because there's so many people that are exploring entrepreneurship than they ever have, I think, in the past. So the barrier to entry is very low compared to it's ever been. And that basically means a lot of people are going to market with something and they have zero clue actually how to run a business. And most people, so I'll give you an example from e-commerce. So we're 2026 there. So almost 3 years ago, I think the stat was about 3,200 companies per day were launching on Amazon. And about 90 to 95% of them were gone inside of 6 months because they just saw an Instagram ad or TikTok. Hey, it's easy to go do this and this and go launch on your e-commerce business on Amazon. That's one little piece of the whole, what it takes to actually build a company, build a brand, build a product, just all the systems, processes. People look at it as, okay, this is the easy way rather than what does it mean to actually build a company? And building a company is a lot of work. Building a product may be easy. You could say, okay, I'm going to just take one product, I'm going to ship it. But then you're like, okay, I'm going to just be a solopreneur. I'll have got one 2-page site. I'll go sell a product. That's fine. Digital product creators, great. That was a different model than to say I'm going to go build a company. There's event costs. There's just so much more to building a company. The employees that you're going to need, that the people it takes. It's a path of taking that. Are you going to raise money, bootstrap it, and where do you plan to go to? So there's a whole journey that's involved that has a lot of steps in that. So accelerators help you just understand it more holistically, what all is involved in a business. Like for Future Proof, I did 50 founder calls, discovery calls before we wrote a single line of code. And I told the CTOs that we're not doing anything until we just identify and understand the problem, make sure that we know what we're building, what we're solving for. So that type of stuff, you learn that accelerator programs. Just don't go build because, hey, it's so much easier to ever build. But what are you building for? Who are you building for? And what problems are you solving? Oftentimes I hear people like, hey, I've got a great idea. Let me run that by you. Very rarely do I hear somebody say, hey, I've uncovered a problem. Can I share this with you? Because they're sorting for an idea, then start looking for the problem to solve that idea, to apply that idea, rather than uncovering a problem and figuring out how to go solve that problem.
So on that note, so we're thinking of accelerators. I'm going to ask this in 2 parts, but I want to cover both sides. So Tila is an unusual situation where we're not asking for money, which absolutely bifurcates the accelerator / mentoring world, because a lot of those accelerators, Y Combinator being the grand poobah, but their model, everyone's copied that model, is we're going to give you a pile of money, big or little, sometimes a lot, sometimes little. We're going to take a little equity, and then we're going to invest in you to make your company successful. That's the standard accelerator.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, based on your experience, if I am going that route, the traditional I need money route, what are your favorite accelerators that you would recommend people's research? Let's say it that way. And then the second part of that question, if you're not, now you're in my world, where would you go if you weren't looking for money? That's probably a smaller list, but I'm just curious. Let's start with the traditional one where you're much more familiar. Where would you, I'm a new founder. I got a great idea. I've done the basics. I know a little bit about business, but I'm a standard startup guy. Don't know a lot, but I got a great idea and I think I got something to run with. Where would you tell me?
So the big three around the world is YC, Techstars, and Founder Institute, which I run the North Carolina chapter for Founder Institute. And they're focused on different things. YC is YC. Getting in is very hard. You also talk about moving there. If you're going to be either remote, you're going to be in different cities. Techstars and Founder Institute is probably the two big other ones you hear about. Techstars, though, is a seed accelerator. Founder Institute is the world's largest pre-seed accelerator. So it helps to know where you're at in the journey and then finding the right program based on that. Whereas Founder Institute is focusing on pre-seed from ideation onwards, we're actually probably the largest feeder into Techstars. So people who gone through the Founder Institute program, if they're not ready to go fundraise or take them, just launch, get the company going, then they move into something like a Techstars. And the chances of getting into Techstars goes up considerably just because they're a lot more prepared. Mm-hmm. So knowing where you're at in the journey makes a big difference to which program to apply to. Founder University, another one, JCal's, has another program that goes through systematically. Launchpad Greenville is modeling their whole program around that from South Carolina. And they've got 4 or 5 cohorts now down there as well. I would also explore universities. NC State, Andrews Accelerator Program has a great program. I'm sure a lot of other universities are doing similar stuff. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, I just don't know what the university structure is. I mean, if there's shared IP with some universities and stuff.
I know because I've been a judge on the Andrews Accelerator. If you're not associated with NC State, either alumni, current, or using their IP, you can't do it. That one's limited because I have a lot of, I'm like, that's one of those bummers because I know everybody in there and I can't touch it. But the other one is, I think UNC launch, you don't have to be involved in.
Okay,
UNC
yeah. I mean, yeah. So I would explore a lot of other programs like the university stuff. If you're saying, hey, I'm not looking for funding, I'm not going through that kind of channel, but I just need structure and help and understanding kind of some of the blind spots, explore those type of avenues. And there's, funny enough, you bring this up, though, we just launched last week Accelerator Hub. So if you go to like acceleratorhub.runfutureproof.com, it's a aggregator of all the accelerator programs around the world.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
we need to put that in the show notes. That's very cool.
It just launched this week.
Sure.
So, but the whole ideas are just so you're not missing it. So you're getting all the deadlines. You can just add it to your calendar and it'll automatically feed to your calendar as this new accelerator programs emerge.
That's very cool. The advice I usually give to new startups when it comes to this is meeting people is almost more important than anything else early on. Unless you've already got that network, like you're saying. There's so many in the Raleigh area, and I imagine every major metropolitan area has this. There's tons of things happening. There's supposed to be one tonight that's a brand new thing, and it is probably canceled because of the weather, which I'm really bummed. It's like the first one. It's got to be such a bummer. But they're more and more being made, and if you haven't found them, you got Tech Talent. I'm trying to think of what is the one that Chip Kennedy runs? Why is that bothering me?
The Tech Night.
Tech Night. Yeah, Raw Triangle Tech Night. That's it. Yeah. There's tons of them that they're free to go, and you're just going to meet people. And boy, you can never do that too much. Is all I'm saying. It does take a lot of time, though. That is one.
It also goes back to intent. So am I looking for money? Am I looking for education? Am I looking for networking? Am I looking for kind of true mentorship? There's each one. You need to know what your intent is going into it, and then this way you have a much better idea are you getting what you're looking for, and then also looking at, does that program give me that kind of result? Am I tapping into, what is YC? So I heard recently, like 40% of YC's customers are YC alums. So
it's like a big circle.
It's like a big bubble. So you don't really know if you have a good product yet because only people that are buying it are other YC alums. So it skews your perspective on what's real validation. But at the same time, it's nice to have an ecosystem that's supporting you. So it's great to get that initial feedback at the jumpstart of that flywheel. Then hopefully you use that to go outside of that flywheel network and find additional customers. So it would be good if more accelerator programs did that. But at the same time, it does skew some of your data.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great, I'm thinking launch pad, but at some point they got to let that go. You got to fly on your own or not. And that's,
That's where a lot of times the investors will ask in San Francisco, like, okay, you did this in San Francisco, but go show me a proof point from some other city, because
sell
it
something
really
in
is.
Idaho.
Yeah, you can literally do things in San Francisco you won't be able to do anywhere. New York may also be another place like that. It's like things just work in those two cities that just doesn't scale anywhere outside of those areas.
Yeah, actually, we've talked to a couple of founders that are basing their digital products on a lot of agricultural and I guess you could say clean tech that works really well in some areas, but has almost no reason to exist in others. Yeah, they're going through the local startup system too. But so you're saying that if I just watch the YouTube video guy that says with these 5 prompts I could be a millionaire overnight, that's not going to work?
I mean, it's a good starting point, right? So if you get $1 richer, then at least you got $1 richer.
Yeah, those guys, I find those so disingenuous because the only one making money on that is the dude selling that course. And that they're just not honest about that.
They're not making money from the course. They're making money from the sponsors on the video because everybody wants to get $1 million from 5 prompts. So their engagement numbers are high. That's it.
It's rough.
Yeah.
Look, at the end of the day, it goes back to what's your intent as a founder. If you use that and you got basically 5 different ways of prompting that you didn't know about, and you're using that for other things you're going to be doing, then you came out informationally richer. If that was your whole intent, can I go do 5 prompts and will I become a millionaire? Then you're going to go on to the next 5 prompts guy. So, it's who are you first? And then, and look at all the different resources that are available to you. And then you'll go find the gem in every one of those potentially.
Nice. This is the first time I asked a joke question. We got an actual thoughtful, real answer from it. So thank you.
Normally Gary's questions are horrible and we just dismiss them, but well done.
Speaking of Gary's questions, I only have one more for you. From your experience with all the startups that you've had and all the accelerator programs that you've been involved in, could you boil down 3 top pieces of advice for a new startup?
Number 1, I would say is know your numbers. That's probably one of the key reasons for Build a Future Proof was really how can we help stack the deck in founders' favor? There's enough stuff that's on their plate. David, you're going through this with you. It's like how many things you have to learn, how many different hats you didn't realize. You start off with your sense of kind of expertise, but there's like all these other things you have to learn that you didn't think about having to learn. Okay, can we take either some of that stuff off your plate, automate some of that, and more importantly, show you the things that's going to be critical, which is cash flow, because that's the thing that most people miss is like, how much runway do I really have? How far can I really go with this? Knowing the numbers and knowing your kind of runway and cash flow is probably number 1. The next thing would be question your successes. Successes are probably your biggest blind spots because somebody's successful in whatever they're successful in, to stop asking questions around that area. And that becomes where it usually catches them off guard. Meaning that from past experience, like one of the companies I had, my background was a lot more in sales. So that was my comfort zone. So I approached it from that lens of sales. I really should have been approaching it from a lens of marketing because it needed to be a lot more of a PLG strategy than like a sales led strategy. But that was my kind of go-to. That's where I know I can be successful, and that's where I have a competence in. Marketing is less so, the product led less. So I erred on the side of what my strengths are, and that became the blind spot. So what does the business really need at that point in time? So question anything that you've had some successes in to really pay attention. What does this business need at this point in time? Number 3 would be just ask for help. There's so many resources. This day and age, no one should ever feel like I have to go at it alone. Between all the resources, mentors out there, accelerator programs, literally, like I can't imagine the stuff that's available now. None of that stuff was available like 20 some years ago. Mm-hmm. So how much of the ecosystem that's been built up that can make you successful? I think anybody that's just saying, okay, I'm going to do this on my own, it's just the chances of failure are so high already. It's like, why not do anything you can to stack the deck in your favor?
Very good.
Yeah, solid piece of advice. Now, Oz, if anybody wants to learn more about you or about Future Proof, where's the best place to find you?
I'm probably the most on LinkedIn. It's just Odds Merchant on LinkedIn. I think the only one on there, Odds Merchant on there. So it's easy. And yeah. And the Future Proof is just runfutureproof.com.
Cool. And we're going to put the link to the other, you said the aggregate for your accelerator programs.
Correct. The acceleratorhub.runfutureproof.com. Yep.
Okay,
Very
cool.
good. Thank you so much, Oz. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thanks, David. Thanks, Gary.
And on that note, we are out. We will be back next week. See you next time, guys.
That wraps up this episode of the Biz Dev Podcast. And this time you get me, Scott Bailey. I am the lead dev over here at Big Pixel, and I know what you're thinking. I thought David did all the work. Well, not exactly. We have an awesome team of people to back him up. BizDev is a production of Big Pixel, a US-based provider of UX design, strategy, and custom software. This podcast is edited by Audio Wiz, Matt McCracken, and Christy Pronto, marketing guru for Big Pixel. Want to connect? Shoot us an email at hello@thebigpixel.net, or you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, X, and LinkedIn.